This is Ridealong Live, where everyone has a story to tell.
Hey, ride along, welcome to the ride. Welcome to Monday on the ride. Wow, I feel energized. I feel like Superman today. I feel like I got all the rest that I needed. I feel like I'm ready for the week. Are you ready for the week? Yes, I feel energized today. I don't know why. How you feeling? How everybody doing? How everybody feeling today? Let me see who's inside. Hey, Tamika Rogers. How you doing? Big up yourself. Lacey J. And the person today who came in first, numero uno, Lyra J. Singh. Sorry if I say your last name wrong. Lyra. Congratulations, you win! You win! And we need to give actual prizes to people who come in first. Yeah, you win. You came first. The first one. Samantha Dixon, how you doing? Welcome. Welcome to the ride. Everybody go ahead and share up the program. Let me do that as well. Share up the program, share up the program, share up the program. Share up the program. Let me do the same thing as well and invite a few friends. Somebody invite a friend, please. Or someone, look, someone sent me an invite for Ride Along to watch Ride Along. Thank you so much, Sherry, sorry. Invited me to watch Ride Along live. I appreciate that. Guys, invite someone. Let me do that here as well. Invite someone to watch. Strength, no weakness. I'm starting a watch party as well, guys. I'm starting a watch party. Watch party, boom, watch party time. Hey, Tamika Rogers, how you doing? Deborah James Roberts, how you doing? Shock Doll, how you doing? Joan Duncan, how you doing? Big up yourself. Thank you so much. Tian Fraser. I don't know. Leslie J, I don't know where Lydia is. Lydia, if you're hearing me, I hope you're doing okay, Lydia. Lydia James. Dean Fraser, how you doing? Lois JJ, how you doing? Guys, I want to, again, dedicate today and say condolences to the families or any part around the world, anywhere right now, who have an empty chair or empty space in the living room because they lost someone to COVID-19. Today is a landmark here in the United States. They recorded over 300,000 deaths right here in the United States. 300,000 people dead of COVID-19. 300,000, it's a lot, it's a big number. In fact, let me put it into perspective. 300,000 people dying is equivalent to the entire population of my beautiful island. 3 times. It's like everybody, every dog, every cat, every man, woman, and child dead on the island. Everybody. 3 times. That is how devastating it is. That is the number. Today alone, over 1,500 people died of COVID-19. And what time is it? It's 6 o'clock. The night is still early, as they would say. This disease has taken so many millions of lives, changed millions of lives around the world. Today, in the United States, it reached another milestone. 16 million people infected right here in the United States. 16 million people infected of this virus. Just in February, March, COVID-19 was something that we were just hearing as a disease that was someplace in China. There was a first case and everyone said, well, not everyone, the president of the United States said, well, it will just go away. It will just go away, you know? It didn't. More people died, more people died, more people died. And it's sad. 16 million. That's a big number. That's a huge number. Today is also a very historic day as well. Today, we've seen the first shipment. Well, yesterday, the CDC, they just roll out or approve this new vaccine. And we saw trucks, FedEx trucks, UPS trucks rolled out yesterday into today with tons and tons of millions of vaccines. Now, these vaccines started to be administered today. We saw the first case here in New York at a hospital, the first Caribbean person to get this vaccine, right? The idea is to inoculate this vaccine, knock it out, kill it, done it, so that we can have herd immunity and people could go on with their regular lives. But although this vaccine might come, and although some of us might go back to a regular life, like in the next couple months or so, it won't be life as regular for a lot of people who lost their loved one. So I want to take this opportunity, guys. I want to take this 30 seconds for everybody to do this for me. Press that love for everyone or anyone that may have a family member who have passed away due to COVID-19. Everybody press the love. Press the love, 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 press the love. Don't stop pressing the love. Don't stop pressing the love. We remember everybody. We remember everybody. Remember the Caribbean people who died. We remember the people, the friends, the families, the neighbors. Everybody knows somebody who died from COVID-19 or who is sick from COVID-19. I'm grateful to be alive. Veronica, I'm grateful to be alive as well. And also, I want to just take this time to talk to the people who are still sitting by and thinking that this COVID-19 thing is a hoax. People still don't believe it. People don't still think that they shouldn't wear something as simple as a mask. Just a mask. It's not a political issue of wearing a mask. It shouldn't be a political issue. It saves lives. Now, to join me on the program today is a gentleman who I've been following a lot. And we also have someone else who's going to be joining us, Cassandra Mitchell, who's going to be joining us in a little while in the program. But I want to chat with us a bit about what just recently happened in my little island of Grenada, Carriacou, and Petit Martinique, where it was announced yesterday. It was announced yesterday that there was a huge spike in COVID-19. In fact, at the press conference, it was announced, and I'm going to play back a clip from the press conference, how it was announced. Over approximately 28 new cases. And everyone said that numbers might rise. In a place like Grenada, with a population of about 110,000 people and about 12 ICU beds. Check this out, guys, and tell me if this is not very, very alarming.
Pleasant good afternoon to you, and a pleasant good afternoon to fellow members on the panel. I would try to provide just a brief overview of the status of COVID infections in Grenada as up to today. Now, as of Thursday of this week, we had a total of 43 confirmed cases on the island. On Friday, 11 December, we had 2 new confirmed cases of SARS-CoV-2 infection, or I will simply refer to these cases as confirmed COVID cases. So we added 2 additional COVID-19 cases. One was a 38-year-old female who traveled from the US on 6 December 2020. And the other was a 38-year-old female with no travel history out of Grenada and who is employed at a hotel in the south of the island. The case reported experiencing mild symptoms, which started on 7th December 2020. The following day, which was Saturday, 12th December, contact follow-up testing of contacts were undertaken by the health team of the immediate contacts of the cases of the local base and also at the place of employment. Testing was also done of other individuals that were reported to the Ministry of Health and persons in quarantine. As a result of this testing, Grenada is fortunate to have the services of 2 labs that provide testing services. So 107 samples were tested by our SGU Windrep lab, 120 samples at General Hospital. From the SGU Windrep lab, a total of 26 new cases of COVID-19, 26 new COVID-19 infections were identified. 13 of these cases were close contacts of family contacts of case number 44, which was one of the cases, the local case that was identified the day before. 3 staff members and 9 guests at a hotel in the south, and 1 guest at another hotel. There were an additional 35 individuals pending testing. Their samples were batched in 7 pools, and these pools were abnormal. So we await the final retesting, the final results of these 35 individuals. At General Hospital Lab, 1 new COVID-19 case was identified. This was a 10-year-old female who traveled to Grenada on 7th of December 2020 from Canada. In addition, there is an additional 10 samples in a pool that are pending retesting because the pool was identified as abnormal. As of today, active case finding continues. Extensive testing is ongoing at present for the 200 plus remaining employees at the hotel, and the results will likely be ready by sometime either later tonight or tomorrow. Testing sites extends to communities and other business places, and this will continue throughout the next few days.
All right. So to joining me, as I said, to break down these numbers and try to understand how did we get to this place, is Mr. Ron Redhead. Ron, welcome to Ridealong. I think it's your first time here. How are you doing today, sir?
I'm doing okay, just a bit tired. Had some things doing over the weekend, which kind of spilled over into today. So I am a bit tired, and of course, hearing the news. Let me just say first and foremost, thank you for the opportunity. First time being on the program, as you mentioned. And good night to all the viewers. Good night to all the riders, wherever they are, home and abroad.
Thank you, Ron. Ron, I want you to help us put this thing into perspective, right? Because you are on the ground in Grenada. You understand how everything goes on the ground. Explain this to me. Now, we took about 5 months or 6 months or so to get to about 30-something, 40 cases. And in the lash of 1 or 2 days or so, we're added 28 cases. Help us put that into perspective from your understanding being on the ground in Grenada.
Yes, well, my understanding being on the ground in Grenada is that has created a tremendous amount of panic among citizens. Grenada normally respond to news of hurricanes, disasters, that sort of thing very quickly. And this news was no different. In fact, it was not anticipated because we have been receiving good accolades so far internationally in terms of travelers, in terms of general information around Grenada's COVID-19 management. And to have a situation like this, the threat of community spread definitely will be very alarming and concerning to a large section of the population. People have resorted to panic buying in some instances. Some people have been stepping up precautions, taking into account what we went through in the last number of months, and worrying about if it is that Grenada will have to go through that situation again. So it's a very difficult situation, no doubt. Very important that we listen to official information. But Junior, it's very, very difficult for people to take that in now.
Right. Yeah, I can't. I understand people's anxiety at this time because the truth and in fact is this COVID-19 is no joke.
Mm.
And in situations where there is a natural disaster or when there is a pending natural disaster, people always might say, okay, well, they might get assistance from the United States, Canada. They could get help and from other big countries. But big countries going through the same thing and even worse. So this makes it more frightening because there is no help coming. You have to deal with this on your own. So I could understand the anxiety that exists among the population right now as they try to wrap their head around this. You know, how tell us the kind of vibe of the people, of the population as they go about their daily duties from yesterday into today. What are you hearing?
Right. Well, I must say, however, there seems to be a section of the population who are going on the basis that, okay, we've been through this, we can get over that situation, that hurdle, and we must remain positive, continue to practice your protocols, continue to maintain your social distancing and the likes. But then there is a section of the population who may be resorting to panic and fright simply because, Junior, on the health side with COVID, Grenada did not feel the brunt in terms of large scale community spread. But what the majority of Grenadians felt was the economic impact that COVID brought, the indirect impact that it brought, which was in terms of the economy, the shutdown, the lockdown, that sort of thing. And Grenadians do not want to go back into that mode. I suspect that we will have to implement measures additional to help curb the spread, to help manage the situation. I suspect this may be one of the things that the Prime Minister may be speaking about tonight. But for the majority so far, we seem to say that we seem to be saying that this should have been avoided. So far, how the information in terms of being disseminated and has been coming out so far, somebody has to take responsibility for what went on, and it could have been avoided.
Okay, and that's where I want to get to. I want to get to that point, right? When you say it could have been avoided, um, from your vantage point, from where you sit, how do you think that this last major spike, this alarming spike, how do you foresee that it could have been avoided?
Yes. Well, again, taking into account that COVID-19 is an imported virus, it is not originating from Grenada, from within Grenada. So it has to mean that people who are coming in with the virus are bringing it and maybe potentially spreading it. And in regards to that, who, in my view, will have the greatest responsibility to ensure that they prevent um, a large scale spread would be the authorities. And so far, based on all information available presently, right, evidence suggests that either preferential treatment or special arrangements were made to allow people to come in to the island without doing the testing as they will do to returning nationals who may be quarantining at home. In terms of going to hotel facilities to quarantine, that sort of thing, people who may have booked flights and have booked with hotels, they got the opportunity to access Grenada by going to the hotel directly from the flights. But the problem with that seemed to have been that if they didn't go out, they wouldn't do a test. And the days passed, and they then proceed because maybe they did not show symptoms, that sort of thing. And the problem with that is that some people are asymptomatic.
Yeah.
So it is a dangerous thing not to engage in testing. And I think that officials from the COVID 19 level in Grenada, the national COVID 19 level, should have been more involved in hotels in terms of monitoring people, yes, monitoring guests when they arrive and following up, even though they did not do a test, not to scare them, not to go there with masks and a set of PPEs and making them uncomfortable, but at least just to engage them because it is necessary to ensure that the staff who would be working there are not exposed to the virus.
Yeah. Okay. So here's my understanding, right? And you could correct me in any one of these areas because again, you on the ground, you seeing what is happening on a day-to-day basis. Someone I remember back in October, was it October? A few months ago, right? They were testing folks at the airport, right? That had stopped for a period of time. I don't know at what point in time that stopped, but there was then folks was leaving the airport and going in, whether they were say they're going to a private government run facility, they were going there and then they were getting tested within a certain period of time, right? How is that different to the treatment that is rendered to folks at Sandals, from your understanding?
From my understanding, that yes, you are correct. They were testing at the airport, and if we are to be very honest, Junior, in my view, the government should try and maintain the testing at the international airport, Morris Bishop International Airport. And it's critical because what you want to do, whether or not you may have facilities, government or otherwise, private, what you want to do is limit as much as possible cases from coming on island. So they must be identified before they
Right.
come in. So, in my view, I would not have stopped that. What it may have required was additional resources to be able to purchase the tests. From my understanding, the tests were delivered to the country free. I stand to be corrected on that. But if they were delivered free, government should have tried to increase the access to it, yes, but they should have also tried to gain additional streams of it so that you can maintain the testing at the international airport level. And of course, if necessary, you can test at the community level to prevent the threat of the virus getting to the community. Because in the government facilities, you have people well trained to handle patients with COVID 19. But in the private facilities, you may have just ordinary staff. They might be considered auxiliary in terms of frontline, but they are just ordinary staff. They may be trained, but not professionally trained to the extent and have the experience in dealing with a situation as a pandemic. So you had that as a disadvantage, and therefore you should have prevented patients or people from coming in without being tested.
Right. Okay. So here we have a situation, guys. Again, you're watching Right Along Live. We're talking about this particular spike, the very, very alarming spike in COVID-19, as reported just yesterday at a news conference. There were over 200 and something cases that was tested. 200 and something folks that was tested. 107 was tested at the SGU lab. When that test came back, 26 additional new cases was found. 26, right? And there were 14 cases in that 26. There were 14 cases of close family relative. Now, those numbers I think would rise because, of course, this 13 or 14 people or 20 something people, they would have gone to the communities, they would have gone to the stores, went to get something to eat, hug, just because they don't expect to,
Yeah.
to have COVID-19. So those numbers are expected to rise. In a small place like Grenada, where everybody know everybody, and people are going around. Some people wearing masks, some people not wearing masks. It could spread within the community. So that's what happened within yesterday, day before into yesterday into today. The Prime Minister is scheduled to give a briefing tonight, which we are going to follow, and are going to be broadcast right here and Ride Along live. Now, the hotel in question, Sandals Hotel in questions, see, I think at present they had over 100 customers at the hotel, right? We're saying that a lot of people came into Grenada, went straight to Sandals, and Sandals basically managed the whole quarantine or managed the processes over there. But that's kind of similar to when someone goes to a regular facility, or government run facility, because they get tested at that government facility right there. I'm trying to establish the difference because people are saying preferential treatment. Is Sandals and those hotels given preferential treatment as it relates to quarantine and procedures and allowed to set their own procedure? Talk to us about the preferential treatment that you see.
Right. I want to be careful with that because you see, I don't want to get into the petty partisan politics. Junior, I want to make it clear that this is a situation that is very dangerous for the country, the
Yes.
economy, the health. So I want to be as open and honest as possible on this program. Now, let me make this absolutely clear. While in the past we have seen instances of preferential treatment for certain people, certain organizations, etc. In this instance, from all indication, what I understand is that the tourism authority and hoteliers, they and of course the ministry, the officials at the ministry, etc., they agreed on the policy which we heard about from yesterday into today. And that policy is that people would come and they will not be tested at the airport, which will delay the time, but they will just go direct to the hotel and then they will be tested in the event they want to go out before, or they may be tested after, should be tested, as the word I would use, after. Now,
Right.
so in some instances, you have to put it this way. If it is that they are not being tested at the airport, chances are people may be coming in as guests to the hotel with COVID 19. And in this case, we can safely say that was the case. And the problem is, if they do not exhibit any symptoms, the staff at the hotels, they will be exposed to a positive patient or someone carrying the virus unknowingly. And that is the threat or danger of it. So in this case, I think that is what created the problem ultimately, the lack of testing at the international airport and allowing the hotels to do their normal routine in terms of guest booking and not having to go through the hassle. But I think at the hotels end, the ball was dropped there, but also in terms of monitoring the hotel itself as a facility, an approved facility, I think the officials at the Ministry of Health COVID-19 should have do something better. And I want to say also, Junior, in my view, what I would have liked to have seen from the government level was to establish a department for COVID 19, infectious disease, pandemics, whatever you want to call it, but
Right.
something specific to deal with that, separate and apart from the Ministry of Health, because we are understaffed at the Ministry of Health in terms of the frontline workers. We are understaffed or under capacity in terms of what we can do. It's the health sector is heavily burdened in terms of the demands and the availability of workers. So I would have separated it and put technical people to manage that particular COVID 19 situation so that you remove the political influence, if there may be any, or any special groups that have interest to get certain things their way, and stay strictly to the guidelines, international standards, etc., when dealing with this. I would not have done what was agreed upon there.
Right. And there were some speculations. Some people saying, well, the guests at the facility, and in fact, I went to the Sanders website, and I do see that they have a lot of stuff on paper, right?
Yes. Yeah.
the testing facility, the points of cleaning, the bathroom and stuff clean every half hour, and a lot of precautionary measures as was outlined on the website. Now, bearing all of this in mind, all of these different things, people coming in on the airport that have to have now a certificate
Yeah.
72 hours prior, and they decrease on the amount of time. Before they were saying a longer time before, now they say 72 hours before you have to have your certificate to come in. So all of these things in place. How did this one slip through where we now have a guest that came into the hotel, interacted with other guests, which interacted with staff, which then left the hotel and interacted with their family, and now we have a possible case of community spread. Where was the breakdown? Where was the breakdown in terms of protocol when all of this stuff's supposed to be in place?
Definitely. Let me just say, Junior, that I want to empathize with the family members who may be going through this situation right now and having to kind of deal with that reality. Seeing it on television, hearing about it in the news is one thing, but when it comes to you experiencing it directly, it's another. So they may be having serious difficulties as we speak. But I think the breakdown, as I have been consistently saying, occurred where people were allowed to come into the country, whether going to a government facility or to a hotel facility to quarantine. People were allowed to come in without being tested. And I strongly believe that if we are to be serious, we need to increase the amount of testing we do at borders. So, for example, that situation at Kiaraku and Pitimatni, where the Yorties, I can't recall their nationality right now, but they were tested positive. That was handled well in the end. However, the point is at the ports of entry, and this is what we were calling for a long time. If you're going to leave the borders open or the ports open, what you need to do is to be able to have a very strong mechanism at the ports of entry so that when people come from any airline, whether private jet, whether commercial flights, what have you, they are being tested, period. They must have access to the tests. If there is a cost to it because you're coming into the country and the country has to provide this service, there must be a slight cost to it. I have some concerns with the amount that locals are being charged to access the test because I think it's going to hinder the ability to identify just randomly if we have any high level of community spread. But I think at the airport, government had to make sure that at all levels, every flight that comes in, people would have access to be tested. Whether some people take 2 3 days, so you could go to a facility, but there must be a follow up from the ministry standpoint. Even if the hotels want to test guests at a later stage, that should be encouraged. But the initial stage, 3 days should not pass with guests, whether coming to the hotel or nationals coming in for Christmas. 4 or 3 days should not pass without them being tested.
Yeah, but that is something that was said in the protocol. That was something that was very clear in the protocol that you need a travel certificate. So, are we saying that folks who came in and stayed at those hotels were not permitted or required, not permitted, but not required to have that certificate that myself and anyone else coming in have to acquire? Is it that they don't need to have that 72 hours test before they come into the country?
That is what we are hearing. That is what we are hearing. And that's where I think the public has the perception that it's preferential because they may be high end guests coming into fancy hotels. They are not allowed to go through the stress and hassle because you want to preserve Grenada as a destination, even when we have a pandemic going about. So I think that contributed ultimately to the problem that we are faced with. And this is why I'm saying if it is that you're not testing, but you should ensure whether you're coming through commercial flights because you have booked a hotel or not, you should ensure that you have a test, whether it was from your place that you are leaving
Hold
or
on.
when
But
you come in
before
here.
we go further, are we saying that that is the case, or we're not sure if that is the case? Can we confirm that that is the case, that they do not need to have that certificate because they go into a upscale $10,000, $15,000 hotel, or we're just guessing that that is
I'm
that?
not just guessing. In fact, let me tell you what I understand from all what went on. The hoteliers, the tourism authority had a promotion or some sort of thing, a package kind of thing, trying to restart the tourism sector. So they allowed hotels to bear the brunt of the COVID costs in that sense for quarantining guests, etc., who may book. So people just want to leave their countries and come and have a good time in the sun, that kind of thing. They can come to Grenada. At least this is how it was advertised. Because remember, the tourism sector got largely affected as a result of the global situation. So they tried to restart it. And from what we understand is that they allowed guests who would book with hotels. So people who are not doing the home quarantine, the people who are doing the home quarantine, they're required to provide the test 72 hours before, PCR test. And the people who were coming into the hotels as guests were not required to do so, but sent to the hotels and then will be required to test at the hotel facility if they want to go out.
Wow, guys, let's take a quick break and digest this a little bit, right? Let's take a quick break and digest this. And when we come back, we'll talk about the Prime Minister speaking tonight at about in 32 minutes or so. And what is he likely to speak about? Also, I'm going to find out exactly who dropped the ball on this and who's going to pay financially for all the tests and all the disruption in the economy on this project right here. We'll be right back. Don't move.
Are you thinking of a Grenadian Christmas but unable to travel? Well, we've got the next best thing to being home for Christmas with the My Grenada box, specially packaged with lots of Grenadian goodies to help remind you of the taste of home. Having a My Grenada box is easy as 1, 2, 3. Visit our website at mygrenadabox.com. Click to make your purchase and voila! In just a few days, it's at your doorstep. My Grenada Box, a taste of Grenadian goodness.
I spend my life away, but this is where I wanna be. My little piece of the ocean is all I need. If it was up to me, I'll never leave.
Hi guys, we are back here and we're talking about this very alarming stats. In Grenada, just as of the past 72 hours, there are reports of at least confirmed 28 new cases of coronavirus on the island. As we know that from dating back from March, when the spike of the COVID was high, right? At the highest the country got was 38. And at one point in time, for a good few number of months, there was 0 confirmed cases on the island. A lot of people took that to be like, well, there's no cases on the island. I don't have to wear a mask. And for weeks and probably for months, that was the fact. I mean, during carnival time, carnival was postponed, by the way, but people still went out. People still, was on the streets and they were allowed to in some instances. There were no major arrests in most of the instances because people was on the mindset, on the understanding that there's no cases in Grenada. There's nothing I should be majorly concerned about, right? So it went on for a number of months. As of within the past 72 hours, there were reports that there was a spike at a particular hotel in the south where over 28 new cases was found, and that was of yesterday. And there are reports that those numbers will be increased drastically within the next couple of days or so. We are in contact with people that work at the hotel who is confirming to us that they were in fact tested at the facility. There was some staff as well who were still quarantined on the facility, unable to leave They took a first test and they had to take a second test. So we are in contact with a number of people who will come on the program in the next day or so to share their story as it relates to what they went through and what they're going through at the resort in the south. So right now we're speaking again with Ron Redhead, who is giving us an insight on this here right now. So Ron, a lot of people are pointing fingers, right, and saying it the Prime Minister or Nicholas Steele should really take the brunt of the blame for this, what happening right here, because the protocols that was given, it failed. Or for those facilities, it failed. And the buck stops with them. What says you?
Well, I share that view to an extent, but I will just add to say they have to take the ultimate responsibility, nonetheless, with how it occurred. Because if it were an easy situation, it would have been handled at a much lower level. But this is very serious, so it requires that national leadership to ensure that that situation is stabilized and we do not go into the realm of massive community spread and national spread. Now, in regards to who must take the responsibility and blame, in my view, I would have liked to hear more of the technical people, as I said earlier on, being in the front and speaking on the issue and actually putting the plans together. I get the sense in some instances that the parliamentarians, the politicians ultimately are involved somehow in finalizing or approving plans. And I think that is a no no. Because of the danger of the threat, you must ensure that the people with the technical capacity are leading it. So I would say to a great extent, not entirely, but a great extent, the authorities, i.e., government, will ultimately have to take responsibility if the ball is dropped, but they cannot alone burden they have to share that burden with the other people who may have dropped the ball in terms of the structure of our COVID 19 team, the people who are involved at the hotels who would be interacting with the Ministry of Health, etc., that sort of thing. So I think they should take some responsibility because that means the structure that they had in place did not work.
Yeah, and that's what people are saying. Um, that guys, I want some of our viewers' voices on this, right. I want you guys to call. I'll put up the number on the screen and we open up the phone lines. The number that you could call in right now is 718-701-5720. If the moderators could pin that number as well. 718-701-5720. And it's not about casting blame on anyone, right? But I think that they have to be dissenting voices. And I think it helps. And whether you're a politician or whether whoever you are, you have to listen to the sending voices. I think a lot of us sometimes, when we hear someone that opposes or someone who gave an advice that's probably different or addition to what you say, they get very defensive. Like, why is that person talking about it? But it all makes everybody better, right?
So true.
Sending voices are good. You know what I mean? So sometimes we come on here and we talk about a certain person or people going through a certain level of questions that shouldn't happen, and we they seem like we are a descending voice on every topic, but it makes the protocol better. So I want to get some voices on this. 718-701-5720. We open up the phone lines right now. We're talking about this spike, this huge spike, and it's an alarming spike of COVID-19 on the island, right? People right now are scared. They're not sure what to do. People are going outside and buying a bunch of stuff. People are just they're scared. They're scared. Even in my little village, where I'm from, I'm hearing that there potentially might be an outbreak there as well, and that is very alarming for me and the people that live in my community. So I want to get some of the voices on it. Again, the number is 718-701-5720. We're taking your call right here, right now on this particular topic. Ron, I want to also talk about the security measures that is at the facility right now, and the steps that would be taken in instances like these. What are you hearing about the security measures when a guest come in to the island, are they permitted to just leave the facility and go out? What are you hearing?
Right. Well, in fact, I spoke with two people who indicated to me off the record they didn't want to be, spoken about. But they did say
Ron,
that,
hold that thought. Sorry, Ron, hold that thought. We just got a call coming in from Grenada. Let's take that call and we'll take your point on the other side. Caller, you live. Where are you calling us from?
I'm calling you from Grenada. I live in Grenada.
Okay, caller. Thank you so much for calling.
The situation is that people like me, I'm retired.
Okay.
People like me have been telling the authorities, I spoke to an official at the Ministry of Tourism.
Yes.
When they opened the tourist trade again.
Yes.
But that was led principally by Sandals. And the fact is that the authorities were just removed the technical guys from the process. They politicize it. It's similar to what you all have up there with Trump and so. And Sandals was in the driving seat. So people come into the airport, they just walk through because they want to throughput them as quickly as possible, whereas Grenadians like me have to queue up and we're getting all sorts of frustration. And they just get packed in Sandals vans and go down to the point and stay there. And what happened is the question was raised, what happened to the locals who work at Sandals? So nobody was interested in the workers. You see, the days when we had strong unions, the workers there would have been a strike, but we don't have that. And this is the situation at the moment. I work in I do part-time in the UK, and I have been here now over a year. I can go.
Wow.
So, but just to appreciate the fact that you all are putting the spotlight on that, and my brother-in-law, Dr. George Mitchell, who was the head of COVID, I ain't hearing from him at all. So you all better get him on the phone and talk to him and hear what he has to say. I'll be listening.
Right. Well, and we're open forum right here, so we're of course open.
If you don't know George Mitchell's number, I could send it for you.
Okay, all right.
You can contact
I have his number. I'm gonna try to reach out to him. But we appreciate your input, caller. Stay safe, wear your mask, social distancing, all of that.
Right.
Works. All right.
Yeah, I'm home having a rum, man.
Okay, thank you, caller. Go ahead, Ron. Sorry, finish your thought.
Yes. Well, before I finish, I just want to, more or less say the caller is saying the same thing that I have been picking up, and I have received some details of it, but I wouldn't get into it, as again, we agree that this is not a time for just laying the blame, because what we want to find out is, in a sense, an independent investigation or some level of inspection. You need to zero in what caused that and try and fix it. That's why it's important to have dissent or differing views. But we were talking about the question of security, and from what I understood from people and speaking with people is that at the facilities prior, I don't know what it is right now, so I can't confirm if that has been improved. But if your time has lapsed, and apparently the security guards are not even aware of your duration as a guest, you're not, I don't know if you're signing anything, I can't confirm that, but you are allowed to leave. This is why in the past, at least one or two people left, or however it was, right? One was in home quarantine and the other was at one of the hotels, and they left without any opposition, without any force to remain and wait, etc. The problem with that is, if you're just taking ordinary security officers and placing them at a gate, they do not have any authority, and they operate largely at the dictates of their companies or the hotel chain that they are securing for. So they can't, in a sense, overstep their bounds. Now, if you include them in the process of monitoring it of their companies, or then you can sort that problem out. So, in my view, what should happen, based on all the criticisms that I heard about that particular situation, the security guards must be a part of the whole COVID thrust at a facility that may have been approved, and they must have a vest, they must have a paper in terms of all the people coming in as at June whatever date, July, December whatever date, and working along with the authorities to know when people can leave, when they cannot leave. But in my view, that authority was not given up till now. I don't know if it has changed so far, but so far the information that I gathered was no.
All right, let's go back to the phone lines. Caller, your live 718 Ride Along Live, and it's 6:52. We must add that the Prime Minister is going to be speaking in about 8 minutes. We will try to pull that video in once the Prime Minister goes live as well. Caller, you live. Go right ahead.
Yes, hello. Keeping to protocol is very important. We're coming from New York. We have to have the 72-hour test. We must have that. Otherwise, it's a problem. We can't even board the flight.
Right.
So if we're coming home and we have to do that, then everybody should have to do that. We can't get the travel documents without that. But
Right.
we must have that also to board the flight also, because they check. You know, I just came here and I was tested at the airport.
You was tested at the airport. Hold on. Were you tested at the airport?
Yes.
Or you were
I
tested at the airport?
Yes, I was tested at the airport because I was lucky enough to be approved for home quarantine.
Okay.
So I was tested at the airport,
Uh-huh.
and today is my fourth day. I was tested where I'm being quarantined,
Right.
and I had to pay my $110 to get the test done.
Uh-huh.
So if I'm a returning Grenadian and I have to do all of that, nobody should be allowed, regardless of whether you're a returning Grenadian or not.
Right.
It's besides the point, because it's a matter of securing the nationals and ensuring that something like this not happen.
Yes.
But because of our lackadaisical, laissez-faire, attitude and all about the dollars, we put so many nationals at risk because of money.
Yes.
It is annoying and disgusting and upsetting.
Wow.
Take care.
Yeah.
That's my input.
No, caller, you made valid
okay
point.
with that.
Valid point. Thank you so much. So here we have a situation, Ron,
Yes.
and I want to try to understand it because it seems like there are different layers or levels, right? People who are staying at government facilities or hotels,
Or home quarantine.
well, it seems like home quarantine get tested at the airport.
Yes, and this is what is happening. In other words, nationals who are coming back home and people who are not at the upscale hotels or who have not booked made hotel bookings for some of the hoteliers, for some of the larger hotels, they have to receive a test at the international airport. And my opening comments was that instead of being preferential, you should test across the board. Do not take for granted or chance that people will get tested at any facility. This is why I'm saying the authorities, they must take part in blame, but they should maintain that anyone, no matter if you're going to a private hotel, which
Yes.
is an approved facility, you should be tested at the international airport. In other words, the whole fight, the national fight for COVID, has nothing to do with the hotels in that sense. In terms of managing it, it has everything to do with the Ministry of Health in this regard and the COVID-19 team. So they must have the first say and the final say to say whether people are cleared or whether they are positive for COVID-19. So test them at the airport. That is my concern.
That is a very valid concern, that people get tested at the airport, because you would be able to make that determination. Now, what about the certificate? We heard about the certificate. Do you think that the certificate makes any much of a big difference in terms
Well,
of preventing COVID-19?
let me go out on a limb and say yes. And let me tell you why. Because so far, the people who may have been coming in, even if people would be may have the virus as returning nationals, but so far, the people who are coming in and doing the home quarantine and being able to provide the certificate, they have not been spreading it at this point. They are not the culprits of it at this point, right? And that is a good thing because it says to me that within 72 hours, you have to provide evidence that you are COVID 19 free. Chances are you could still get it on your way to Grenada. That is
Right.
not, you can't stop that. But at least you're going to be able to limit the possibility or potential of people who may know they're positive from coming to the island in that regard. But do that for everyone. Do that for
Yeah.
everyone so that you do not limit that kind of you don't keep it narrow. You open it up for everyone so that nobody can get under the radar and then come in and expose stuff. Because I am really concerned about the staff at the hotels because the cleaners and these people they work extremely hard and they are using their hands, their face, they have children. It's a serious situation.
We're speaking with someone in Grenada right now. She has 4 kids, and she expressed the fear that she's going through at the moment. She has a 6-month-old baby girl. She's scared for her and her children. She works at the resort, and she was tested 2 days ago. Well, she was tested yesterday. I think the Prime Minister speech just started. I wanna pull that up. Once the Prime Minister starts to speak, we're gonna take a quick look at it, and what the Prime Minister say in regards to this case here today. Yeah, so she's really scared. So do you think that enough consideration, Ran, was given to workers? Was that a big, massive loophole that they just overlooked the workers as transmitting from after it is they would have come in contact with a guest at the airport? Was that
Yeah.
a big loophole?
I think it will. And let me tell you this. Originally, the Trades Union Council should have been added to the COVID 19 committee in a serious and direct way to prevent that. They would not have only raised the issue of ensuring that workers would be compensated during the lockdown through the stimulus packages. I suspect they would have spoken a lot about the question of the working environment to which workers had to operate. I remember the Trade Union Council making mention of that originally. And that is something, Junior, which I think the ball was dropped there. Um, and they should have been involved so as to prevent any sort of thing like that happening. Because I know workers were trained, but there is a big difference between training and the practical side of things. Theory is always important, but the practical side of things, you have to be very careful in terms of how the actual work will roll out. And in my view, with the lapse in terms of the testing and having the workers exposed, I think they really dropped the ball there. And they should, in my view, compensate workers who may be affected as a result of that. I don't know how it will ultimately play out, but Junior, it will be difficult for them to have to pay for things and it will be difficult at this time. They didn't cause it.
Yeah. I mean, the fact remains. I mean, so much you could pay, but then if we have let's go to the video. I think the Prime Minister is about to speak. Guys, we're joined live right now in Grenada. The Prime Minister is about to speak. As soon as that video becomes available, you'll see it right there on your screen. We're going to join the broadcast live. I think the countdown is on right now. Let's go to the video and we'll talk about it right here on Ride Along Live. Again, guys, share the program because the Prime Minister is about to speak on this issue right now. Let's go to the video.
The following is a national address by Prime Minister and the Minister for National Security, Dr. the Right Honorable Keith Mitchell.
Fellow Grenadians, Caraconians, speaking Martinians all. The Christmas season is fast approaching, and I know many of you are filled with eager anticipation for this festive time of the year, when social gatherings are quite popular. This year, however, must be recognized as one with a difference. The COVID-19 pandemic poses a very real and serious threat to us all, and we must adapt to the new circumstances. The news emerging in recent days about the sudden spike in positive cases of COVID-19 originating mainly from Sandals, Grenada, demonstrates the grave danger we face from this dreaded disease. Furthermore, it underscores the need to constantly adhere to the recommended protocols which we have consistently said we must do. Any deviation from what is recommended puts us all at risk. Therefore, sisters and brothers, my advice at this time is do not drop your guard. Maintain the COVID-19 protocols at all times. Many of us were lulled into a sense of complacency because up to now, the detection of this cluster, our case numbers have been relatively low, and very few cases have been diagnosed at any given time. Now, the grim reality is that as many as 13 people in a single household have tested positive for the virus. A situation that can be replicated many times over based on the number of staff. The harsh reality is that COVID-19 continues to wreak havoc around the world, with some places experiencing second and third waves of infections and being forced into lockdown mode again as a containment measure. Here in Grenada, we have so far avoided the need for more severe measures, due in large part to the rigorous protocols implemented and which you have abided with for the most part. Sisters and brothers, the magnitude of the newly identified cluster signals in no uncertain terms that it cannot be business as usual this Christmas season. It will not be wise for us to sacrifice a few moments of pleasure or monetary gain only to face possible severe health consequences and even death in the aftermath. I therefore appeal to one and all to exercise restraint and to be responsible. The current situation is indeed alarming, but I must assure you it is under control. It is important that we continue to maintain the balance between protecting lives and saving livelihoods without having to resort to another period of lockdown. Therefore, government has identified a number of short-term adjustments to the COVID-19 protocols to enable healthcare officials to intensify the surveillance, monitoring, and all other necessary actions to prevent the situation from escalating. Therefore, effective December 15, 2020, all social gatherings, including weddings and funerals, will be restricted to 10 persons. Permission must be sought for any additional numbers. It is recommended that all sporting, cultural, and community-based events should be postponed for the next 7 days. Furthermore, also effective December 15th, business operation must cease at 10 p.m., except for those businesses that offer essentials services. Daytime operations will continue as normal. Therefore, there is no need to engage in panic buying, exposing ourselves unnecessarily to situations that can enable the potential spread of that disease. Restaurants should provide only takeaway service, and public transportation will stop at 10 p.m., except where authorized by the Commissioner of Police to transport essential workers. My fellow Grenadians, Caraconians, Peter Martinicans all, the general level of compliance with the new regulations will determine our next course of action. That is, whether or not we have to escalate those measures. Government, therefore, appeals for the full cooperation of all concerned. A nationwide shutdown is not a preferred option. We must all work together to avoid this. On this note, government applauds the initiative already taken by some members of the business community to adjust operations in the interest of public safety. We welcome this collaborative approach to fighting the pandemic, as government by itself cannot win this battle. In the midst of the festive season, it is a difficult time to impose restrictions, but it must be done in the interest of public good. We are well aware that from the village shops to the major supermarkets, from the roadside vendors to restaurant owners and storekeepers, from the promoters to operators of entertainment hotspots, Christmas is usually a time to enjoy significant profits, given the heightened levels of activities. I'm sure many of you who are looking to the season to recoup some of the losses incurred during what has been a very challenging year for operations in both the public and private sectors. However, I say to you, while business operations are largely premised on the ability to maximize revenue, do consider the potential price of that highly sought after profit this year. In my view, is it worth a few dollars to jeopardize your life and our life and the lives of others? Or the future of your business operations? To the shoppers and the fun seekers, the protocols are in place, but they can only be effective through compliance. Therefore, as I've been doing from the onset of the pandemic, I urge you to wear your mask at all times. Observe the required social distances and sanitize frequently. Sisters and brothers, it pains me to ask anything further of the population, as we have all had to sacrifice so much this year. But these measures are in the interests of every single one of us. And my priority and that of the government is keeping this entire nation and its people safe. My friends all, I cannot stress enough the important role we all have to play in safeguarding each other from this detrimental impact of the deadly virus. Keeping the nation safe requires our individual and collective responsibility. Therefore, the onus is on all of us to maintain that status. Sisters and brothers all, we must be particularly grateful this year for the blessings that have been bestowed upon us, because despite the challenges of the pandemic, God has shielded and protected this nation. When we look at the regional and international news, it is clear that we have avoided the true wrath of this pandemic. We therefore thank God for keeping us safe, and we pray for his continued protection. It is important here to recognize the critical role of the Ministry of Health, our healthcare team, and all other frontline workers in managing the pandemic here in our country. They have worked tirelessly over the past few months to ensure that all possible actions are taken to safeguard the lives of all Grenadians, Cariconians, and PD Martinicans. The contact tracers, for example, have been operating in overdrive in recent days as we seek to determine the true extent of this cluster. We owe them and all other frontline workers a debt of gratitude, and I therefore use this opportunity to again thank you all for the selfless service, putting the needs of the nation and its citizens above everything else and your own. Thank you for selflessly going beyond the call of duty. And therefore, on behalf of the government and people of Grenada, Carriacou, and Peter Martinique, we appreciate all of you. Sisters and brothers all, the psychological impact of the pandemic cannot be disregarded. The immense challenges brought about by the pandemic has significantly affected the psyche of the many and their ability to cope. Therefore, even as we follow the social distancing guidelines, we must not abandon our peers and loved ones, particularly those who are finding it more difficult to cope. The impact of COVID-19 dictates that now more than ever, we should be our brother's keeper, looking out particularly for the elderly and the more vulnerable among us. The pandemic has not only tested our resilience, it is also testing our patience.
Guys, as we continue to follow the story here, the Prime Minister is speaking live from Grenada. We'll get back to his final remarks live from Grenada again, guys. And after this, I want us to analyze everything that was said here. Just had a short broken audio. Let's get back on the audio. We got it back right now. Okay, audio is coming back shortly, guys. As we listen to the Prime Minister speak here.
My friends all, I cannot stress enough the important role we all have to play in safeguarding each other from this detrimental impact of the deadly virus. Keep Grenada safe, and resolution of the industrial disputes. With so many of our brothers and sisters on the breadline due to the fallout from the pandemic, I'm of the view that the focus at this time should be on preserving jobs rather than threatening or resorting to industrial actions. We recognize and respect the rights of all workers, but we also are cognizant that we are currently operating in a new environment that requires us to think and act differently and responsibly. To the most vulnerable among us, rest assured that this government is committed to helping you meet your basic needs. As outlined in the 2021 budget, government will continue all of its social programs, and we have in fact increased the allocation for the Ministry of Housing, Social Services, and Community Empowerment by 28.6% to $60.2 million. This includes the introduction of a new program designed to support households headed by single parents to help them cushion the adverse effects of the pandemic. In closing, sisters and brothers all, I assure you that this administration continues to be a government for and of the people. We are committed to participatory governance, as most recently demonstrated through the series of face-to-face meetings in every constituency throughout the length and breadth of Grenada, Carriacou, and Petite Martinique. We truly value you as an important partner in the democratic process. The unprecedented impact of the pandemic has left governments around the world over in constant pursuit of the happy medium, and the fluidity of the new environment requires similarly fluid decision-making process that is rigid enough to command compliance, but agile enough to facilitate flexibility that is needed. Additionally, the new reality brought about by the pandemic further underscores the need for collective action. I therefore encourage all citizens of Grenada, Carriacou, and Petite Martinique to continue working with us to keep our country and our people safe. Together, we will get through this. Together, we'll go through this. Thank you.
All right, guys, that was the Prime Minister of Grenada, Carriacou, and Petite Martinique, Dr. the Right Honorable Keith Mitchell, as he presented address to the nation, and made a couple pronouncement as it relates to closure of businesses and timing. There will be, I'm just summing it up and putting it all together. But before I do that, Ron, what is your initial reaction to what was said here today, Ron? Okay, hold on. Let me unmute you. Go ahead.
Right. Yeah. So let me just say that it was expected, in my view, that we would see new restrictions to help prevent further deterioration of the situation. That is something that should be welcomed. However, gen- generally, the sentiments expressed did not say that the government will take full responsibility and ensure that this type of spread does not occur again. I am a bit worried about that because you see, to say that the Ministry of Health, and since yesterday we heard about the meeting that they're going to meet with Sanders, I would really like to hear Sanders' side of the story to determine whether or not the government or all of them together dropped the ball. Because I think that's the essential question of the program tonight. Who dropped the ball? So unless I hear Sanders' side of the story, I cannot make a full determination of that. Again, the Prime Minister um, is doing what he believes is best at this time, which is to calm the nation, to say to the people that it is not as bad as it seems, there is no need to panic. These things are important in terms of managing chaos, and so you don't want the situation to deteriorate into that. So it is understood. However, the politics of it, and I want to deal specific with what he mentioned about the democratic process and going through the communities, etc. On a real sense, I don't get the idea that enough people are involved and participating in the COVID-19 response. And that is my personal view, but I believe that many Grenadians will see that. So even just talking about the democracy that exists at the constituency level with just supporters of your party coming to your town halls, I don't get a sense that the people from a wide cross section who can make a difference in COVID-19 are involved in this committee. I am worried about that. As I said before, what we need is a department to deal with COVID-19 separate and apart from the ministry level so that the ministry could focus on dengue, focus on the possibility of this new virus that was soon to be created by the sewage system at the Monge housing scheme, focus on the other sides of things and give a department with full staff and functioning people with the technical capacity, they go ahead, the authority to do whatever is necessary. So I wasn't satisfied that this case was made here tonight. I'm not satisfied.
While everything was going on, I was trying to take it all in and put it all into perspective.
Yeah.
Did the Prime Minister actually even address the main issue at hand? I mean, we were talking about, it is not the citizens of Grenada, Carriacou, and Petit Martinique that brought this onto themselves, right? It is not like they had a big party and somehow somebody catch it at this big party. If that was the case, and they had a big brawl or a big party at some kind of disclosed location, somebody would have to pay the price of that.
Of course.
Somebody would have had to pay the price for infecting the population, so many people, because they was at this party they're not supposed to go to. So he's beating up on the population. Correct me if I'm wrong here. The sentiment is that the population, the people of Grenada, did something which they did not do. They were just being themselves. It came in, it was imported. The issue at hand is sandals. The issue at hand is what happened at Sandals. The issue was not addressed. The issue was not addressed.
And that's the point about it, Junior. In other words, saying that we should follow the protocols and you're putting new restrictions and it pains you to have to tell the people that, that's important. And that's one side of the argument. But the broader question is, why was this allowed to occur? How did it occur? And where did that break down in terms of communication and in terms of the lapsing of the protocols and restrictions? Where did that occur? Who should we hold accountable or responsible for that breach in terms of the protocols, because I heard him announce that people should face the full weight, or the penalties would be applied. That's okay, that's important. But I am not satisfied that, um, the issue at hand was seriously addressed in that national speech.
And I don't know if I'm reading too much into it, and I'm trying to really play it back in my mind and trying to assess. Now here we have a situation that is specifically about an imported case that infected a, a large cross section, potentially a large cross section of the population, right? And the prime minister did not address what is or what would happen going forward to even prevent something like that from happening again. And I mean, it's bad as it is, we have to address this issue right here.
Yeah.
But the issue, he missed the I didn't see it. I didn't see it at all. Let me hear what the viewers have to say about the prime minister respond to this situation right here. I want you guys to call in 718-701-5720. That's 718-701-5720. This is a bit of what the prime minister just said here live on the international press conference live on Ridealong. It was just carried here, guys. Let me just play back a little piece again for those of you guys who missed it. Check it out.
The Christmas season is fast approaching, and I know many of you are filled with eager anticipation of this festive time of the year, when social gatherings are quite popular. This year, however, must be recognized as one with a difference. COVID-19 pandemic poses a very real and serious threat to us all, and we must adapt to the new circumstances.
We'll touch on that. I'll queue up that particular part of the address. Ron, also, right? If you're asking people and asking businesses, and I know Grenada is not the United States, I know Grenada is not Canada, but if you're asking businesses and you're asking people to do all of these things, one, what happened between the hours of 10 and say 6 o'clock in the morning? COVID take a break? and also, if businesses have to stop functioning within certain times, or everything going to shut down, is the prime minister going to talk about new stimulus measures, possibly stimulus measures that might be included to help the population? Did you hear that?
I didn't hear that. And in fact, he announced that in the 2021 budget, government made provision for single moms, having to cope with the situation, etc. Now, that is important, but I'll tell you this, Junior. That's a social issue that, irrespective of a pandemic, any government that wants to tackle something in relation to homes and single moms should pursue. So I don't see that specific to COVID per se. It's an important issue, it's a social issue, but it's not specific to COVID. The people who are losing jobs, now remember, Grenada only approved $50 million in its stimulus package. It was insufficient from day one.
Yes.
So if we are to go through any level of restrictions, because mind you, the 10 p.m. stoppage will have to be 7 p.m. because staff will have to get home before a particular time.
Yes.
So they may have to cut work short. That will result in a drop of revenues, etc., that they were expecting for the Christmas
drastic
period.
Not just a drop, a drastic drop. Hold on, stick a pin right there. We got a call on the line. Caller, you live. Where are you calling us from?
I'm calling you from Brooklyn.
Go right ahead, caller.
This is John Crow.
Hey, John Crow, how are you doing?
I'm doing good. Listen to me. This prime minister is trying to ride the fence. He's gonna apply strict laws, right, and strict rules according to the word that I don't want to misquote him, but the full weight of the law is gonna come down. But come down on who? So which other hotel had that kind of disaster take place? right? But he never mentioned Sandals by name. The event took place at, well, no, he did mention them by name, but not in context.
Right.
Not in context of the virus creation, so to speak, or the spread creation, right? I mean,
the real question is, John Crow, did the Prime Minister ignore the problem? Because, like, if you see a mosquito, you ain't gonna take a shotgun or a machine gun and shoot at a mosquito.
No, you're gonna find where the pool of water is,
right?
And eradicate that pool.
Eradicate it, and that's how you deal with the problem. I think that this situation here, you stomp around the pool, and you're not even dealing with the issue, and then eventually you basically leave a lot of room for the mosquito to fly away. So this is what I'm saying here. You're not addressing the issue of the problem exists. Why did this happen, and how is it that it could be prevented? Before we even start to think about how is it would be prevented, how are we going to deal with how are we going to deal with it right now? This situation here, who's going to pay for these families who would lose all these wages? It's obviously there was a breakdown in protocol, whether it's by the health authority or whether it's by Sandals, but it wasn't on the population of Grenada. It wasn't the people of Grenada that brought this onto themselves.
And Junior, I just want to add to what the caller is saying. I'm sorry to have to disturb it, but the Prime Minister did say that they will review. He said there will be a review of the protocols for the hotels. Now, my question is, why did you do that in the first place? In other words, who was monitoring? In my view, if I am in a pandemic and I am at a ministry, every week I will ensure that a report is coming from the technical people in regards to whatever is approved and how smooth, how effective it is running. In other words, you must be sitting and monitoring the very systems that you put in place. Tourist season reopened. We heard the pronouncement from the Minister of Tourism that we cannot stay without opening our borders. That is understood based on how Grenada is set up. So why did you approve such a system in the first place? And then now you have to come and pull it back. But the bigger issue is, who is going to take the responsibility for the problem that was created?
I will add something to Ron. Ron, you said something earlier, but I want to go back. I want to come up on this one that you came up now. If he was to, or is he taking the seriousness, or looking at this from a serious point of view, right? You would put the blame where the blame belongs.
Yeah.
And you're going to rest the country at ease by letting them know, all right, so we have the spike at Sandals. Like you said, somebody dropped the ball, but he is not prepared to lay blame where it is. He's not prepared to call a spade a spade. And so he's going to skirt around the issue as much as possible, yeah, and avoid naming them by name. Janice said this the best. When the spread supposedly took place, like the guy from Tivoli or the other guy from Hermitage, or people that don't have status, right? The minister went on the radio and called him out of the name because they is the target.
Right.
Here we have a case where we know who the culprit is, and Junior, what you said just now made a lot of sense. Who is going to pay for this?
Yeah.
Who is going to be responsible for this? The people have to go home now. They're not going to be getting a salary. Other workers at the hotel are now scared to go to work because they're working with this other person or that other person. They know that they've been in contact with them. How are they going to be compensated? I think Ram mentioned before about the union. Now, let me just go to this other point I really want to make. This here, what happened, and I hate to say, and is a typical of the Grenada public servants and service. we are very lackadaisical, and we're very nonchalant when it comes to providing service, when it comes to doing the job that we're paid to do. And all of us could put on a litany of names and departments that we've had to interact with whenever we go to have a form filled out, or we have to get a signature, or we have to clear a barrel, or we have to do whatever business we're doing with the community. It is always forever and a day. It never could work as fluid and as efficient as it should be, because the person is out to lunch, they're off today, there's nobody around who could help you or to do whatever has to happen. This is typical of the type of service that Grenada public servants provide to the larger community.
Yeah.
And it's a good, I tell you, COVID is pulling the veil off of a lot of things and a lot of issues that we choose to ignore in our little Grenada.
Yeah.
Here we have a situation where a lot of people could get hurt as a result of a lackadaisical attitude that we have towards providing service to our nationals.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, John Curry. I appreciate your input as always, sir. We really appreciate you. Thanks again. Guys, we're talking here and getting your input. Now we're in full review mode because we just saw the Prime Minister of Grenada. He just came on an international address where he spoke to the nation and the world as to the new measures that will be in place. Let's take this next call. Coming in, caller, you live. Where are you calling us from?
I'm calling from Brooklyn.
Go ahead, Brooklyn.
Good day to your listeners. I wonder, I listened to some of the things that were said. We are blaming employees of the government for not doing their job. Do we know if they have a proper monitoring system in place for spot checking? Businesses who are given special privileges. I'm sure it's not the employees of the public service who would have given special privileges. It would have to be other persons who would have done so. But getting a report, as Ron suggested, may not tell the true story, may not give you a head start on the whole question of COVID-19 and its spread or its presence in Grenada.
Yes.
What will give you an idea is the whole question of testing and encouraging people once they feel a certain way, once they see signs, to please get to the nearest health clinic.
Yes.
Or medical personnel so they can be tested. In that way, you will manage it. Additionally, you can't lock down the country. You need to get more people involved in tracing and then isolating in small communities, in villages, persons or areas where you think there is a spread.
Yeah.
And the government has to do that by providing the resources and not talking tata. As I have heard an old prime minister said tonight, because he's not accepting responsibility, they made decisions and they're scutting around the real problem, which is a problem at a major hotel in Grenada.
Yeah, this particular problem is.
So we need to do better than that. Have a good night.
Thank you, caller. We appreciate you. I appreciate your input on the topic. Again, guys, we're talking about this here. Ron, what was the biggest thing that you were expecting from the Prime Minister tonight that you did not hear?
Well, the fact that we put that his address was pulled forward because it was supposed to be at Wednesday, on Wednesday, and the fact that it was pulled forward tonight, I was really looking forward to him saying that, listen, within the last 24 hours, I have met with people, I have arrested the situation, and this is where we are going to move. We cannot have the lockdown, but these are the measures that we would implement temporarily to help prevent. I think I got some of it, but ultimately, he did not take responsibility. I wanted to hear him say that we took a gamble with the tourism sector and it backfired. And I wanted to hear him say, this will be reviewed going forward, because the people have been clamoring. There must be an alternative. There must be an alternative to a number of things. But in this instance particularly, there must be an alternative to how the COVID-19 situation in Grenada on the ground is managed, not what is reported. Because, Junior, I get a sense that what we are reporting out there in the international community is mostly good news. But when you are on the ground and you live it, for example, Grenada is the only place, in addition to the good news, and we must support it and be proud of it, but Grenada is the only place where people actually escaped quarantine on more than one occasion. And the escape did not happen in some kind of remote area. People were able to traverse through the whole country to escape and go on a plane and board a plane, etc. The point of it is that somebody has to take responsibility. So it's not just about reporting good numbers and reporting no deaths and so on. The fact is, we are not doing large scale community testing. As I said earlier on, what I would have liked to hear from him is that every parish will have access to the tests and they will be guided by the technical people in terms of how they roll that out. It's all well and good to talk about the vaccine, but access to the test to determine who has COVID or not is more important, in my view, before you get to the vaccine. Because prevention is always better than a cure. We need to find a means to monitor effectively. That is not being done. Even when people played Jab Junior, we didn't see a spike. So the fact is, people who are coming in with COVID-19 and going to these hotels, going to other areas, they are the ones responsible. It is imported. So something has to be done to strengthen the monitoring at the borders, the testing at the borders, the ports of entry. So I really didn't hear that. And I am not satisfied that we are going to tackle the economic issue that would result from this new cluster. I hope, Junior, I hope and pray that it does not go beyond a certain number, because we cannot, in any serious way, no matter which side of the politics, no matter what group to support, etc., we cannot deal with that level of pressure right now on our economy and the health sector. It is a no-no. And I agree with him, the Prime Minister, all hands must be on deck, but they mustn't push some out. When it's good news, they are alone in front and they were raising their hand and so on. And then when things get bad, they call in for everybody. When they are getting all their accolades and so on, I don't hear them call for everybody. I don't hear them thank the people who was involved in a serious way. I don't see them doing that. So again, the team needs to be broader, the COVID-19 team, and take the best out of Grenadians, even abroad, because I can guarantee you the experience in the United States. I am certain that some of our nationals are seeing it and can provide critique in areas of weakness that may be going on. Grenada is much smaller, and we could be able to manage the situation well together.
Yeah, absolutely. Again, guys, we're watching all the development as it happens right here. The Prime Minister just came on with the international address, and on all indication, a lot of things that we expected to be said were not said. I personally think that he missed the mark, and we kind of get tired a bit with the reactive measures. What about the proactive measures? Implement proactive measures so that we don't have to always react to a situation like this. The fact is that the problem is with sandals and the lack approach that they gave to sandals, and guests came in, because this is not people in Grenada that came in with this. Visitors came in, they went at a particular hotel, they infected other visitors that's there, and they also infected staff. Staff then unknowingly left the facility, went home, and infected their family members by riding the buses, going to supermarkets, and doing all these things. And what was done? Did anybody think like, okay, this is a possibility that this could happen? It seemed like all of this stuff was just a missed opportunity. And I know that the minister still is talking on GBN. We're going to get that video shortly. But it seems like if it's a missed opportunity, and here the Prime Minister come in and still not addressing how we're going to prevent this from happening. It's probably in the works, but we did not hear it.
We did not hear it. And again, Junior, it comes down to this recommendation that was made. Now, of course, the public know that I represent the NDC in many regards. But I do have a personal life. And I wanted agree with our position from day one. Just like we will do in hurricanes, tropical weather systems, etc., and have bulletins, government should take the responsibility to consistently push bulletins out there. So, in the event that people were not following protocols coming into the airport, etc., the public would have already been able to identify that. So, the staff at the hotels would have been informed, and then they could have done the necessary precaution, speak up for a test, that kind of thing, before it reached to this level. In other words, Junior, consistent flow of information is necessary because this is a disaster. It is not a case where it is well managed as we are being told. It is a disaster globally, not only Grenada. So we need consistent flow of information. Every day things are changing. So I'm disappointed. I'm disappointed with what I heard so far. But some of it is understood in terms of the measures, the new measures now. Some of it is understood.
Yeah. And, you know, listen, my greatest fear, it seems like my greatest fear, the nightmare situation is finally coming true because I was always very concerned of, you know, opening these hotels and allowing people to transit back and forth or workers, and then it starts by the workers and people getting infected and infecting other people in the population, and it just become a widespread where, like in the US right now, forget contact tracing. They can't even contact trace. You reach to the point where you don't even know where to start the contact trace because so many people, even in the area where I'm at, is infected. You can't even start to think about contact trace. So this is the worst case scenario, and they should have had some things in place like a shelter in place order. If one guest is infected at a particular resort, immediate lockdown or whatever should be that should be preempted. That should be put into place. Not when it come, then we think about, oh Lord, what we doing? Everybody running around like with a head with like the head cut off. You know what I mean? It's like it was never planned. You know,
You're correct. You're correct. You're correct. I share that sentiment, Junior, and I think ultimately the ball was dropped from the authority standpoint simply because they have the ex officio authority over every facility, every in terms of institution, how they implement COVID-19 protocols. And the fact remains, we are hearing of Sandals today. We heard Grenlec, would we hear of any additional corporate entity who may have identified staff as having contracted the COVID-19 virus? This is a cause for concern because when we talk community spread, and as you said, it's getting now difficult for America to even do the contact tracing because the spread is so widespread that it's so difficult to pin it down where it started, where it's going, etc. And I get the sense that in the next 48 to 24 hours, it may be revealing. I hope and pray again, as I keep saying, that it is all positive news and people will recover safely. This will not escalate into a national spread. But so far, based on what we are hearing, it's likely that we would see more cases, and I hope it wouldn't go beyond a certain number because we cannot withstand that.
And we just have to say that we're not hoping that it gets worse. In fact, we're praying that it doesn't get worse. We're hoping and praying that we don't hear of any other cases. God forbid. I mean, the country have been doing so good so far in terms of there have been 0 deaths, and we hope that it stay that way. But I'm very, very concerned about the transportation implication. People would have traveled on various transportation from their houses, people who don't even know that they had it and went about their daily lives. We got another call on the line. Caller, where you calling us from? Hello? All right, that caller got cold feet. And those are the serious implications that I'm very concerned about. Um, I, I urge that everyone in Grenada, and I want to make that call right now, please wear your mask at all times. I see that a lot of people they ease up on that. People walking around and people not even taking that. But I want this to be a serious point of action to wear your mask, social distancing. Please use hand sanitizer. And I know that we got a call from certain institution that said that it doesn't have any mask. So, excuse me. So what we're going to try to do is, even if we could get couple thousand masks donated from some of our viewers. We put some funds together and get some masks down there, so people could have it, because some people, they just don't have access to the funds to get masks, and that is a sad implication there, by people not having the funds to do that. But I want to urge everyone, please wear your mask, social distancing, be very careful. As we are here in New York, don't let your guards down, please. We're going to close off shortly, Ron, but what's your closing words?
Well, I want to close on the point that you have, indicated that we must practice the protocols, but we must do it in a way to, in a sense, report. Because let me tell you what I find very suspicious. In other words, how I see my good friend Cassandra just joined.
Yeah,
But
Cassandra, go ahead, go ahead.
yes, I would like to know, how are we going to come out of this episode of COVID-19? I am a bit worried about that, and I hope and pray that people do not resort to the panic, but we listen official information. I would like to see more official information coming out there on a timely basis. Again, we keep saying that from day one, this was mentioned. Put information out there, speak to the public, and don't only report when cases are bad, because you are creating the panic. If you're telling us everything good and then boom, you're just coming and reporting cases, that is going to create panic. So consistently engage the public on a weekly basis, or at least, twice for the month. Say something on COVID that we didn't know, but you're working towards. Tell us what is going on with the hotels, because that is a point of entry. So I would like to see a greater response to this new episode, and I would like to see more people allowed or permitted to be involved in managing the COVID crisis in the country, and not just one set of people. Get more people involved and have the thing as it should be. More technical people, and we should be guided by the science going forward.
Absolutely guided by the science. And let's jump in. Let's jump in right now. I know she's busy. She's been on quite a few meetings, and she had to join us a little bit earlier, but we understand she was on a meeting. Cassandra Mitchell, yes, right there. Cassandra, first, I want to welcome you to the ride. And before you say anything else, I want your first reaction to the Prime Minister addressed earlier.
Well, I'm glad I'm coming in at this point. For me, listening to the Prime Minister is what I did not hear and not what he said. I think the majority of us was expecting an apology from the administration. If you look at the feedback on social media, and I'm certain Ron must have said it, the ministry dropped the ball. They dropped the ball big time on this one. And for us, many of us who are objective, it's okay to not get it right. So, and it's okay to make a mistake. And I think the responsibility is on the ministry and those responsible for this cluster of cases to come to the people and apologize. And I listened to the minister at the presser, and he did indicate himself and Dr. Charles that, you know what, they had, I think it was Dr. Mitchell who said it this morning, I'm sorry to correct him, but they are part of the COVID team, that they had looked at the protocols that Sanders created, and they did see, and I think it was Dr. Mitchell who was alluding to that the protocols that they had created, it was consistent to international standards. So, all right, if that is their justification, that's what they're saying. Somewhere along the line, somebody made a mistake. This is where we are. Come to us and say, look, we thought that the regulations would have worked. We realized that it didn't. Fail. We are sorry. We are going to make things better. Our government and the people involved in the ministry, they have a responsibility to protect us as a people. And listening to the Prime Minister, because I've had this discussion for the last few months, and I heard the Attorney General's justification for what they're doing. And the Constitution does give allowance to the government of Grenada in Section 3G, where it gives the government the authority, if I may, to derogate your personal liberty if they believe or they have reasonable belief to believe that you are infectious or contagious. But here's the concern that we have, and that's coming from the Prime Minister's address. And as I said it yesterday, the government, while the Constitution gives them the authority to derogate your personal liberty, they can only derogate the personal liberty of a collective, of the people, if there is a public emergency. I've been asking this for weeks. Junior, the last declared public emergency was in April. According to our constitution, there is a 6 month limit, which means that at the end of October, the state of emergency would have lapsed. We have not heard the government of Grenada declare another state of emergency, but our rights and freedoms are being derogated. So I'm listening to the Prime Minister's speech, and they're saying that as of the 15th of December, that social gatherings are now limited to 10 individuals. Businesses are have to be closed by 10 p.m., and which is good. And we understand that you're trying to protect us. That's what you're supposed to be doing. Um, but you're derogating our fundamental rights and freedom, the people of Grenada, when it is your fault that this cluster of infections now happen. So I wanted to hear an apology. I wanted him, as the leader as the prime minister, the leader of our country, come to us and say, you know what, we are sorry, we failed you. We are going to make this better, and this is some of the regulations that we're going to put in place moving forward. I still have concerns about our rights being derogated without a public health emergency declared, as according to Section 17 of our Constitution. I have a problem with the ministry not apologizing, and that is for me the takeaway. That's what I heard: the derogation of our rights and the lack of empathy for what they have done, the lack of emotion, the lack of the ability of our leaders or rulers to come to us and say, no, we failed you and we are sorry. That was my biggest takeaway from tonight's speech by the Prime Minister.
And Cassandra, where are the unions in all of this? Here we have workers who work up at a specific facility who quite a cluster of them got infected and then infected their family members. Now, were there any concern that this is a potential threat, that this could potentially happen, and should the union stand up and protect their workers?
Well, it is still very early in this whole in this situation. They only announced it yesterday. I'm yet, just like you, to hear from the union. I'm yet to hear what their stance are. So I'm gonna leave it open. I tend to try to be objective in cases like this. I'm hearing a lot of innuendos. I'm hearing a lot of they says, and of course you hear the they says and the facts being mingled together, and there seems to be a lot of confusion. But what is factual here. What is very obvious is that somebody dropped the ball. It's said from the ministry's end. If you're looking at the facts that's been placed before us, they are stating that they did look at the protocols and the plans as Sanders had presented to them. One of my concerns too is, why is it a private entity dictating to our state, the state of Grenada, what they want to do? We have regulations that should govern all of us. And again, you look at the privileges and elitism and classism that exists right here in Grenada. And this is the conversations that we don't want to have, but they exist. And that is and these are the facts based on what I've heard from Dr. Mitchell, from Dr. Charles, from the Minister of Health. When you put two and two together, it's all the fingers keep pointing back to them. And then it comes back again to the constitution and the role and responsibility of the government of Grenada to protect its citizens in a public health emergency. So why is it that regulations are there for the layman, but yet those who are similarly privileged seems to have other options, and they have the option to create their own protocols? Because if you look at what the minister is saying, if you look at what is happening, there seems to be loopholes. Because if you require a negative PCR test to come into Grenada, how is it that guests at this particular hotel seemingly do not require a negative PCR test to get here? What is happening at the airport when they come, which is at the point of entry? What is happening when they book the flights? And interestingly enough, I was listening to a piece. I think it was an interview that was done with one of the owners of the hotel. And what I heard, and that is him saying it, is that they did a survey, and from that survey, I think they have over 1 million loyal um, guests. And the guests were saying that the more stringent the regulations, the less chance they have of booking um, like flights and booking rooms at the resort. And and that again brings right back to the privilege, the elitism, the classism that exists right here. While I understand that the pandemic has affected financially a lot of businesses, why are we making exemptions? And that is what's happening. And I've heard it, they're denying it, but this is what's happening. They're seemingly given the option to roll out their own rules and regulations for their guests, while other rules and regulations apply to us as citizens.
Right. It look as if the tail wagging the dog instead of the dog wagging the tail. You ask me. Someone,
Mm-hmm.
Margaret have a question right here. That's pretty interesting. I want to pose it to you because me and Ron spoke about it a little bit earlier. She said we only finger pointing, only finger pointing. We pointing finger at everybody. Who should take the blame for this? Who should be getting the finger point for this? Who dropped the ball?
You see, and I'm going back to the Constitution. I'm not going to give my opinion here. In a public emergency, the responsibility is on government to protect its citizens once a state of emergency has been declared. And I have to place emphasis on a state of emergency, and that is the only way our fundamental rights and freedoms can be derogated. So the enemy is COVID-19. So given that there is and there was a state of emergency, then the government has a responsibility to the people of Grenada. And if you look at what has been happening over the last few months, while the government is trying to dish out blame to the people, I think the majority of Grenadians have been adhering to the protocols and the regulations that the Ministry of Health implemented. Save one or two in breaches in the regulations by locals. What most of the infections and the spread has been by people coming in, imported cases. So they have a responsibility to protect us, and that's what the Constitution says. So there should be no finger pointing. The buck stops at the top.
Yeah, yeah, and that is so right. That is so right. The buck stop at the top, and that's why someone have to assume the responsibility. Because if no one assume the responsibility, this will happen again, and this will happen again, and this will happen again. Someone have to. And you're right when you say that you were expecting that the prime minister to come and say, okay, the buck stop with me. This was a flaw. This was a mistake. This was a loophole. This is something that happened, and this was fixed, and we will ensure going forward that something like that would not happen again. And we're working to ensure that everything is we learn from our mistakes, and nothing wrong with that. As a leader, you make mistakes, and you own up to the mistakes, and you try to don't make the mistakes a second time. And it's understandable. It's a new coronavirus. Everybody's learning as they go. So you made some pretty valid points there. I think we have to wrap here. But Cassandra, I want you to give some closing words on what should people do at this point in time? What do you want to say to the audience that's watching us right now?
Well, for us here, just continue to adhere to the health regulations and protocols. While I didn't ask permission because I'm a member of civil society, and this is one of the things that we have raised concerns over the last few months, the whole issue of a state of emergency. And I've had this back and forth with members of the legal minds in terms of whether or not our rights and freedoms can be derogated by a mere act, a law of parliament, and that is not the case. I actually went through the Constitution. I've been doing this really in depth for the last 7, 8, 9 months, ensuring that as a citizen, that my fundamental rights and freedoms aren't being infringed upon. So just my advice is just continue adhering to the local health regulations and rules as what we have been doing. Many of us for the past few months. I want to. I will be doing it. So maybe this is an opportunity for me to implore and ask for support from my fellow Grenadian citizens that we ensure that those we entrust to protect our fundamental rights and freedoms do not infringe upon it. So I will continuously be asking our rulers, where is the state of emergency? The Prime Minister is stating that as of December 15th, there are certain rules and regulations are going to come into play. He even alluded to that should we, the people, disobey that, then there may be a possible lockdown. But that can only happen again if a state of emergency is declared by the Governor General of Grenada. And we have to be
Right.
careful. Now, I've been saying this, and I'm going to implore upon us, be careful. While we understand, while we respect, while we appreciate that we have to be protected, that this is an unseen enemy and we have to do things to protect ourselves and our family. Let us ensure at the same time that our fundamental rights and freedom aren't infringed upon. I've heard cries about police brutality. While there may be allegations, I know there are some that are truth. And these are things that happen when we don't um ask for transparency and accountability from our rulers, especially now.
Yeah.
Especially now.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that is what that's going to be my parting words.
Thank you so much, Cassandra. Mr. Ron Redhead, we appreciate your time, sir. And again, we urge for everyone in Grenada, Carrick, Pity Martinique, everyone around the world, please be careful. Wear your mask. Practice social distancing. Wash your hands. Do all the things, all the protocols that's necessary to save lives. Again, guys, we appreciate you, and we will absolutely keep in touch. Ron, any last thing, or you're good?
No, I'm good. I'm good. Just be safe, everybody. That's what I would say.
All right. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, guys. This was a long edition. Yeah, this was a long one, boy. But it was necessary. It was absolutely necessary. I'd like to thank Cassandra for jumping in there with us. She been busy today, boy. I was trying to get her on earlier, but nevertheless, she came in just at the right time to explain and bring a point to the forefront. I want to close here by echoing the same sentiments that I just echoed earlier, right? And the importance of wearing a mask, right? The importance of wearing a mask. I know people saying that there are vaccines that's looming, and soon we might hear about vaccines. I don't want us to even look at the vaccine coming right now as a preventative measure at this point in time, because who knows when the vaccine would even get to countries like Grenada and the Caribbean, right? Who knows? And then there's a lot of people who are very apprehensive about taking the vaccine. That's neither here nor there. But at this point in time, what we need to do, everybody, wear your mask. I've been preaching that for the longest, guys. Seriously, wear your mask, right? Adhere to social distancing. Do not congregate in large spaces, right? And I've seen it in other places where people are just like, they go to parties and they forget, like, yo, this is COVID season, right? Do not ignore these things, guys. Wear your mask, adhere to the social distancing protocol, use hand sanitizer, right? Wash your hands. All of these things are very important even now. I take it even a step further, right? I take it a step further. I don't allow not stranger, even some family members. I haven't seen my mom, I haven't hugged my mom for about 4 months. And me and my mom is very, very close. I would go to her and I would give her a hi like this, and that's how I see her. She stay, because I don't know if I'm a carrier. I don't know. I mean, I took a test, but I don't know. I don't want to be, held responsible for affecting my mom. And I know it's difficult. I know it's hard. And a lot of us are going through COVID fatigue. But this is necessary at this point in time. I know Christmas is coming up and everybody getting ready to celebrate and have little parties and all these different things. Guys, right now, I think we could pull back on the celebration of Christmas 2020 and have a bigger Christmas celebration in 2021. Heck, we could have a Christmas in May, anytime next year when it's safer to do so, right? Adhere to these things, guys, and be safe. Take care of yourself. Take care of your family. Thanks for watching, guys. Look out for each other as well. Look out for each other. Look out for each other. Because there's a lot of people right now, and I've been getting a lot of calls. We've been getting a lot of calls of people who are not in a position to afford some basic stuff, food and other items. So look out for each other. Look out for your neighbor and be there for your neighbor. If you could afford a little something and you know somebody might be in a position where they cannot afford, heck, it really takes nothing. Just help out. Help out. All right. Even with us here, we've been getting so many calls for assistance, and we've been helping out wherever we can. I mean, we can't help everyone, but we're helping out wherever we can. Whatever little that we could do, we try our best. You could do the same individually. You know, you might know somebody who might need assistance. Help us help out. All right. Thank you guys for watching. Thanks for being a part of our program today. And thank you everyone who support and advertise right here on Ride Along. Let me shout out the Grenada box. Can't forget the Grenada box. Yes, the Grenada box. The My Grenada box. And that's pure Grenadian goodness, a taste of home for Christmas, delivered right here to your doorstep here in the US. And they have over 20-something items in the My Grenada box. You have spices, chocolate, condiments, sweet treats, and a whole lot more. And when you support the My Grenada box, you also supporting farmers and entrepreneurs in Grenada, right? So support the My Grenada box. Check them out online right now at mygrenadabox.com. That's mygrenadabox.com. Also, I got to tell you about the Megaforce promotion, the Super Sunday. Yeah, the Super Sunday Wagiti Virtual Bingo, US $25,000. Somebody's going to win $25,000. So a few people are going to win in a total sum of $25,000. Tickets right now is only $20. Get your tickets right now at GoToFet, and that's Sunday, December the 20th. Sunday, December the 20th, 2020. Guys, I got to tell you about this. A brand new product from Ridealong. It's called the Riders. It's the headphone. Yeah, man, it's the new headphone, or a brand spanking new headphone. Is called the Riders. Yeah. It is amazing. And it's brand new. We have the headphone, over the ear headphone, as you see right there. And we also have the earbuds, all right? Various types of earbuds just introduced. I want you guys to go to the website and check it out right now. Go to ridersong.com. That's ridersong.com. And as we promote social distancing and mask wearing, in every package of the Riders box, you get a free mask, a free Riders mask. So we urge you to wear your mask and be safe, right? So get the Riders. Check out all the products, all the new products, right? Headphone, Bluetooth headphones, and earbuds from Ridealong. It's called Riders, all right? Riders, R-Y-D-E-R-S. I'm wearing my Riders right now. See? It's mine. It's mine. See? My brand new Riders. This is a brand new Riders, guys. Brand new Riders. Bluetooth. And it also comes wired, all right? It also comes wired and Bluetooth. It connects to your phone. It's touch sensitive, so you could touch it, up music, down music, tap, and it's just great. And also the Bluetooth earbuds as well. All right. Thank you guys for watching. Thank you guys for being a part of our program today. A long one. Nevertheless, it was essential to talk about all these things. And check out the website again, Riders, R-Y-D-E-R-S, Song, ridersong.com. ridersong.com. Check it out from Ridealong Live. Peace out, guys. Catch me again tomorrow. Bye.
Are you thinking of a Grenadian Christmas but unable to travel? Well, we've got the next best thing to being home for Christmas with the My Grenada box, specially packaged with lots of Grenadian goodies to help remind you of the taste of home. Having a My Grenada box is easy as 1, 2, 3. Visit our website at mygrenadabox.com. Click to make your purchase and voila! In just a few days, it's at your doorstep. My Grenada box, a taste of Grenadian goodness.
I spend my life away, but this is where I wanna be. My little piece of the ocean.
A message by the Grenada Distillers Limited.
You want a hand sanitizer to do 3 things: kill germs, be gentle, and to go where you go. You can get all of that in our hand sanitizer. Hard on germs, gentle on hands, affordable. Remember, hand sanitizers contain alcohol. Keep away from heat and flames and avoid contact with eyes. Available at retailers island-wide.
You're constantly thinking of food, but sometimes you just don't want to cook or want something a little different. That's when you call Tasties, preparing meals that you really love. Tasties, our mouth-watering food, would have you coming back every day. But hold on, we only prepare meals Monday, Wednesday, and Friday for now. Call early because we have a lot to serve and we would love to serve you. Tasties, we prepare the meals you love to eat. From macaroni pie to baked chicken, provision dumpling and saltfish, stewed chicken, curry chicken, baked chicken, rice and peas, salads, and more. Please call for daily menu. Call 425-0624 or 403-0411. You can pick up your meals from us or we deliver it to you. Tasties, food that's delicious.